Okay, we are live streaming.
Okay, it is 4 o'clock, so we're gonna get rolling while we're still setting up here. And at this point in time, we'll just start off with Carlo. You want to go first?
Sure, but it's actually listed as the normal.
Okay, so you're gonna be doing that presentation.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Ed, what do we got going on?
We've got the,
And hang on one second. This is the April 1st moratorium meeting here in the town of Lancaster. Go ahead.
nothing new on water and sewer from where it stood. Regarding traffic, we've got the draft scope. And Matt and I are gonna get together a week after this week, it's gone this week, to just critique it a little bit, and then the biggest thing is come up with a list of intersections that we think are critical.
Okay.
And then we can get the RFQ out. We've kept the scope somewhat open, because I want the consultants to give us their thoughts and ideas. I mean, the objective's very clear what we want, but how they get there, I mean, I'll leave that open to the consultants, and then that'll be something we review and figure out who we think's giving us the best direction, the best way to go at it.
Anything else going on?
No, I provided Cindy some information she needed for mapping and stuff. I did, regarding wetland walkovers. I've got walkovers for 5. 3 of them have to do with the connecting Lancaster issue. And then 2 of them had to do with the 2 of the properties that Cindy got permission from. One was the one on Hall, and the other one was the one on Seabrook.
Okay.
So as soon as I get those proposals back to Earth Dimensions, they'll get a schedule. They're out about 3 weeks. I said that's fine, because I'm trying to coordinate everyone's schedule. And they'll probably end up doing 2 days worth. So I said, well, let's group them, the 2 park parcels, because they're a little bit larger, one day, and then the 3 sidewalk projects on another day, because they're a little bit easier, more linear to walk through. So as soon as I get a schedule, anybody who wants to attend, let me know, so I make sure that I can reach out to everybody schedule-wise.
Yeah, I definitely want to attend.
Okay.
Did we ever hear anything on Westwood Park?
The property?
Oh, yes, I actually spoke to Mary Jo Balducci this morning.
Oh, okay.
She said they're finally ready to start talking to people. They had to get through some family stuff and the holiday and everything. She's given my number to the Realtor.
Okay.
Preliminary conversation is they want to retain part of that property more towards the street.
Towards pavement?
Yep, towards pavement, for family reasons. Plus, there's another person who wants to buy a parcel to build a house on it and possibly use that little strip as a driveway.
The access they have to pavement?
Don't know. But that's going to come into negotiations with the Realtor. How much of that property are they willing to sell to the town?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a couple parcels we haven't. We've got that parcel, we've got the parcel off of Lake, or Lake, I guess is what it actually fronts. And we haven't heard back from those people yet, so there'll be another series of walkthroughs, assuming we get okays from both property owners on those too.
Okay.
I was going to ask that question, if you heard anything back, because we did have those letters that went out for those parcels, and we haven't heard anything for them.
Yeah,
Is that your name on it?
yeah, a couple of them came back, and Cindy, they were given to Cindy, and she set up.
Those are the 2, that's Hall.
Yeah, those were the 2 we was talking about.
Okay.
So once we can get that all set up, we'll go out there and walk around, and, you're more than welcome to join us. Go out there and check it out. We'll do the same thing at Westwood Park, once we get that ironed out, see where we stand, and go look around and figure out what we can use and what we can't use, and go from there.
Yeah, the walkovers, as I expected, are about $700 a piece, which is what I thought they would be. So.
Yeah, gotta do it, gotta go see what we can use, what we can't use. Perfect. Matt, what do you got going on? We had the zoning meeting there.
Yeah, I did send earlier today a red line version of what Chapter 5 is from our comprehensive plan. We were able to accomplish, half of the recommendations. There's still the other half, whether or not they're still have a priority to them. We need to identify also what we'll need to add to that list of recommendations to changes to our zoning to help achieve what our goals are. In doing that, perhaps we can start having discussions on sending out questionnaires or surveyors on what the landowners and/or stakeholders are interested in, just to hear the reality of what the pulse of the town wants.
Okay.
So we can incorporate that in. I didn't get through chapter 4 yet. I'm hoping this coming week I'll have some free evenings. I can work on that sort of thing and get that out to the committee.
Okay. The maps, we got some maps from Ed, the zoning maps. The zoning maps are going to be available to town board members in the planning department. There's also up in my office. So again, you can come in and we want to look at the different areas and see what we think may need some zoning changes, like Genesee and, no, Alley-Oops, where is that?
Harris Hill.
Harris Hill.
Harris Hill and Genesee, because again, that went from a commercial area to,
Mixed use.
yeah, mixed use, and part of it is also residential, which makes no sense where the gas station is.
Right.
Yeah, so again, we're gonna, as the town board members, we should take a look at that as well. And we'll make those maps available to go through there and see what we think needs to be changed. And then obviously we'll do that in conjunction with the stakeholders. I mean, we've already got letters on that intersection anyways, asking for a change there, which to me would kind of make sense in that area. So, but we'll look at the whole town and we'll figure out where we think there should be changes made and then set up the appropriate meetings and try to get that done. So again, those maps are available now. Go down there, take a look, and we can discuss it at upcoming meetings and what we want to do there. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else?
There's a PDF version on the website if you need to access them
Yeah.
to have it.
If you want to go in. Is this a different, this is?
It should be
from
the same
website?
map.
Same one,
Okay,
same one.
On our website, okay.
yeah.
That way I can, with my old eyes, I can bring it up.
You can blow it up.
Zoom right in on it, look at the tax parcels.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does get better as it zooms in, right? Okay. Council members Schroeder
Yes, sir.
and Studley, are you guys ready to go with your presentation?
I emailed the presentation to your email. If
Oh.
you could pull that up, the
Yes.
PowerPoint, that would be fantastic.
Okay.
I have no service, and by the time I get a hotspot set up and everything, it's... Didn't think of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, just tell me when to change the,
Well, you could change it already. The ideas for new developments in the town, we're working on this with the planning department subcommittee, and the members are still listed there. Our last update, when this was created, was that letters were sent out to Deer Run Trail, Bippert's, Stutzman Road subdivision, and Siebert Road subdivision. It sounds like from what Ed was saying that we did get, we got correspondence back from Bippert's on Hall Road and Siebert. And we're gonna end up taking a walk around there. So we're just waiting on the others to hear anything back from them. And this is not an exhaustive list, this is just where we were starting. Kind of look at, what land is available. And
Knowing
what,
that some of those letters went out, I'm sorry, knowing that some of those letters went out the 14th of last month, how long do we wait before we try to make contact again?
30 days, I think, would be reasonable, you know? And as well as I see the identification of lots here, there was a lot also identified at Aurora, another Bippert's property. Aurora and Clinton?
On the
Yeah,
south end?
on the south end.
of town, yeah.
And I asked Cindy if she might add that to the list for sending a letter out too.
There was one that we talked about a while back, and it just fell off.
Yeah, yeah.
So then there are some newly identified recreational areas. Hall Road, 38.5 acres. There's 74 acres on Didion, and then on Bowen, there's 52 acres. Possibly 2 of these lots could be used for the green space preservation under the Green Print program that Cindy discussed last meeting. And that would be the Stutzman Road and the Siebert subdivision as well. Big concern is that the parcels identified as recreational areas or for green space, some of these properties have AG exemptions and/or are being farmed. She mentions this to ensure that if there is a problem with town converting farmland to a recreational use or green space, we address it now or redirect our efforts. So it's just for us to keep in mind and really address this.
Okay.
This came up in our discussions with Eric, when we were meeting with Eric, and decided in a separate meeting, and as a right to farm town, we don't want to make a wrong step here.
Sure.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah, and again, this is the beginning of the process. It'll have to go, be discussed on the board, go for, if we decide to move forward, there'll be public hearings, referendum, the whole 9 yards anytime we buy land, so
Yeah,
hopefully
we're fully aware that
Okay.
all we're doing is bringing potential projects or ideas to you.
Yep.
And then you as the board will make up your mind as to where you want to go after working through whatever processes you have.
Okay, perfect.
But yeah, I agree. Looking forward to make sure that we can actually use farmland as recreational, that it can be zoned and/or.
Otherwise, why are we wasting everybody's time, including the homeowner
Correct.
Great.
Thank you.
or landowner?
Yes. Yep. And then the next slide is about the green space. It's some more information about like the Green Print program. The program comes from input gathered from residents who don't want to see every parcel of land developed into a subdivision. It would need to most likely go to a referendum if voted on by the community to establish the community's interest in if we want to do this or not. Funds are bonded for under this program to pay for the land and logistics of the program. There is a great contact, someone who has already processed this and has implemented this. And then there's 2 examples of using possibly Stutzman Road and Siebert for this program.
If I may interject, there is, and it's a certain amount of negotiation, and we're just in the, beginning stages here too.
Yes.
Let's say there's a farmer who is getting up in years and he doesn't want to farm it, his kids aren't going to farm the land kind of thing, and he might really not want to see his land that he's toiled on for so many years become another subdivision. And/or they might want to put aside some land for the family, just as I was talking to Mary Jo Balducci today. They might offer us a part of the parcel too. So this is a negotiation process, but identification of the green space is the first thing, and then, if somebody's willing to talk to us about it, that would be a negotiation process.
That's great, because those are all ideas that we need to get kicking around, the exact same things that we talked about with all these property. Somewhere else, it could be the same thing, the person owns 50 acres and they only want to keep 20 for whatever, and then, absolutely, there would be negotiations. So we're fully aware of that. Thank you.
Awesome.
And that's basically what this slide says, is that we need to find a program that fits Lancaster best. And while a nearby community was able to preserve over 1,000 acres of land with $6.8 million, we just need to find out what's comfortable with our town, what our residents would like. And, our public input is very vital. So we're at the beginning stages of it right now, but as we move along, we just got to keep that in mind, and we'll just keep moving forward. Next are 2 mapping sections. This one is the example of the Stutzman Road subdivision. Back there, that's Stutzman Road's land owned by Schmitz, which is about 10 acres, I believe. And then the next one is Siebert. So some pretty decent sized lots there. Then the recommendations, these have not changed, I believe, as of last meeting. I watched that one. There are some recommendations that we're going to possibly revise on here, but, remove cul-de-sac islands. There was ideas talked about for traffic calming, increasing the circumference of the cul-de-sac, or providing it with like a T turnaround. I think that next council member Schroeder has actually a great proposed idea to kind of.
Yeah, the cul-de-sacs are becoming difficult to maintain.
Yes.
So the highway department is finding difficulty in plowing, and or if there's islands in these cul-de-sacs, any shrubbery, trees, and so forth. I mean, we just don't have the personnel to go to all of these cul-de-sacs and maintain these areas. Plowing is a big thing. Where do they put the snow?
Yeah.
How do they move it out of that area, especially in snowstorms?
Absolutely. Also, something that was suggested was a recreational area, like a pocket park or something. Paths around, maybe to connect the different subdivisions together as is already being created with the Lancaster Connect. Continue that along. Maybe have the homeowners association or create the district to maintain the recreational areas, paths, and the stormwater management. And then there's addressing a recreation fee versus land donation versus
I'll get into that with my
land donation with codes, and then the landscaping, and then requiring notification to neighboring properties of the proposed sites. So that is what we have so far, and then
If I could.
absolutely, if you have anything to add.
Bob, you'll notice the very last thing that we have, the very last bullet, that was also, if you remember back to our last planning board meeting, that was a big thing that we discussed from the planning board meeting, is making sure the parcels get identified and neighbors get notified. So we're really looking forward to being transparent, as we talk about time and time again, for the community to make sure that they understand what we're trying to accomplish, and for them to have input as to what we eventually, as a town, decide to do.
Yeah, that's exactly why we're here, live streaming and everything else. We're not trying to hide anything from anybody. So yeah, good point. And yeah, we'll continue to do that when we narrow it down to somewhere that the town is, specifically interested in and look like it might possibly work out, to see if the people want to do it. So thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I'll turn it over to
Me? Yeah.
Councilmember Schroeder.
So the town has already increased the building lot sizes, and that's helped some of the development, obviously. And the new developments into retention, detention ponds, so forth that are needed. Adding the cul-de-sacs, again, it's a cumbersome price. The houses at the end there, the developers have to charge more money for them, and again, it becomes cumbersome for us to maintain these things. So if you go to the next slide, is it the next one or the? Oh, these are like here's a proof of the subdivisions. Now, who takes care of that retention? If it's not the responsibility of the town, now you have all those homeowners, and then homeowners switch over. So sometimes there's neglect, and we have drainage issues, and, it has to be remediated, and it's quite costly. And then
I
if you.
think that one's Windsor Ridge, if I remember correctly.
Right, and it's, thank you. And so if you go to the next one, this is my idea, kind of thing. Or if we get rid of a cul-de-sac, and we might want to come to come to a decision as to per how many homes. If you see at the end of that, that U-shaped area is a lot easier to plow and maintain. So let's say just for instance, we come up with every 30 homes, we're going to require some sort of pocket park. If you see the detention pond in that area. Now, who would maintain that? Now, if you're putting in all of these pocket parks kind of thing, that's where, again, on the previous slide where it says we might want to review our recreation fees that we're charging. We might want to increase them, or we might want to use some of them towards the maintenance of these pocket parks. And are these then decide, are these pocket parks going to be maintained in-house, or are we going to be having them maintained from outside too? But the cost of the maintenance needs to be involved. And so I'd like to, pass some sort of, put it in code where the planning department, give them some sort of direction, say, okay, every 30 homes, let's say, for instance, we need you to put in a pocket park of this. And it's got the green space that the residents can use, along with the drainage facilities and so forth.
So,
I love the Canadian model that we have here with the meters.
Yes, yeah. Cindy did it great. She just, boom.
so if I can interject, and not to quash the idea, it's a good idea. Our current stormwater management code requires the property owners to maintain these drainage facilities, and there's a process to get that to happen. Should these homeowners fail to do that, the town does it on their behalf, but also at their cost.
Correct.
And that's the purpose of filing these map covers with these provisions already in it. The code is already in place to have the facilities maintained. We can amend it to incorporate the pocket parks or those private areas for those neighborhoods, but they become private areas very similar to the few that we already have in town. They're not open to the general public. And of course, the maintenance should be borne by the community that it serves.
Correct.
So regardless of, how you configure it, there has to be legislation in place that's going to let everybody understand whose responsibility it is to maintain those
Yes.
facilities. As we stand today in 2024, and every development that we've done since the 90s, these stormwater facilities are the responsibility of the individual homeowners.
Yes.
Whether or not it transfers on the deed I don't think is the town's problem, but it's filed as a map cover document at County Hall for those individual lots to bear the responsibility.
And how is
of-
that working for us?
How is it? Well, if we don't administer it, it's not going to work. We've
The rule is
begun
only as strong as
administering
the
it,
enforcement.
but we have to have the enforcement end of it. We have to have the legislative body support it, as well as the court system. They have to support the legislation that's already in place. Without that, there's no way for the town to recoup those expenses should they go bad, right?
Correct.
Because they are within our MS4. We have an obligation to make sure that they're maintaining those facilities. And again, that new permit is going to require the reporting from the private facilities as well as the municipal facilities.
And there's
So
several,
It's going to come down to administration of the existing code. Without that, it fails. We end up with
you are
what we have
correct,
today.
there should be an administration of every code, and it's difficult.
Right.
You're only one person.
No, there's
department is-
enough of us, but we have to have the support of all the departments rather than jump the gun and rebuild stormwater facilities on the town's dime when it's clearly privately owned.
I agree.
That shouldn't
And when
happen.
does it come to our, so let's say it's a homeowner maintained retention pond, okay? And it comes to our attention when it's not draining properly, when there's issues and so on and so forth. And then you've got to send out the letters and try to get the homeowner. Sometimes it's a $30,000 bill to remediate that situation. It's quite expensive for the homeowner, I understand. And then maybe homes change over, they don't know that their responsibility is tied to that. So then the town goes in and helps remediate for them.
They shouldn't.
Well,
They shouldn't. They should stand behind their code.
And make the
administer
homeowner
that,
do it.
And make the homeowner do it.
But
Because that
until the homeowner does it,
$30,000 bill
it
doesn't
sits.
have to be $30,000 if the facility is maintained regularly.
You're correct.
And that's why
but-
it's more than important to make sure that the deed restriction is filed when that map cover creates the individual SBL numbers, that each of those descriptions is filed with those parcels that are required to maintain that facility.
And I agree with you. But what happens when they are let go? Then the town gets the complaints.
We
We have to
administer
try
the
to-
code,
and
give
we administer the
opportunity to
code, correct.
remedy, and then remedy on their behalf, but also
We have to make sure that remedy is paid for.
give them the bill, because
Right.
it's not a free service.
Understandable. And right now, we don't have enough, I'm not saying enough manpower, but we don't have the proper equipment to take care of in-house, to take care of a lot of these overgrown problems.
No, we don't have the equipment, but we do have the legislative authority to force remedy.
We do.
And we can even subcontract that work out. We have
We
to
can
take those
certainly
proper steps.
subcontract.
And as I said, the legislative body has to support the code that's already adopted and administer it. And, 2 or 3 cycles of rebuilding a pond, and people begin to understand it's a lot easier to mow your lawn every week than it is to come in once, every summer with a combine and clear out the lot.
Right. Well, I agree with you. However, I'm looking towards the future.
And to the point of removing the islands out of the cul-de-sacs, those islands were originally installed there as a part of a stormwater management practice. That's where the snow should be piled and left there to melt and absorb into the plantings within that island area and not removed.
I know that I'm not saying to remove the cul-de-sacs, I'm saying future building, okay? I can't, well, not that I can't correct what has been done.
Sure.
I can try to remediate some of the problems within stormwater management.
But, should these proposals come across with the cul-de-sacs, again, these are best management practices for stormwater management, right? Those could be the bio beds, those cul-de-sac
Right.
islands. And
Right.
whose responsibility of the maintenance of that? It's the neighborhood that's being built. It shouldn't be put right on the town every single time. It's a facility, no different than a retention basin or a wet pond. It's a bio bed.
You always provide me with an education.
try.
Thank you, Matt.
So, I guess before we step away from that, I'm sorry. Is it a situation where we have 2 different and distinct issues to address? An existing one
Yes.
that we were just talking about, right, that gets overgrown and doesn't get anything, and looking forward towards the new ones, I think, which is what you're talking about.
Right. So we have to come up with a system to make sure we take care of what we already have.
Right.
And then I'd like to come up with a system to go forward in the future with development that, for detention ponds, a system in maintaining those. As well as you can see that there's grass space, or park space there for the residents to use, which is honestly the main frame of the conversation too, is making sure that per so many houses, that there's some sort of green space for the neighborhood to use, that small children can go and play, people can walk their dogs,
So in this ideal situation, that land and the retention or detention, whatever it is maintained and owned by that particular.
It could either or, yeah. It could go to a homeowner's situation like we already have, or we could develop a new plan, whereas the town either maintains it or we farm it out and have it maintained. But my concern is not only my past 10 years council person, but this 10 years council person, that I've only been here for a few months, I've already heard complaints about retention and detention ponds not draining properly, and 2, we have to follow up with the resident. If it's their responsibility, we have to send out a letter, make sure it's a process that takes an awful long time, too. And that doesn't help cure the drainage problem during rainy season, which is, next month? So, although the process is there to help us and to follow it, by the time people complain about their drainage not happening, and all of this process is done, it could be August by the time we have an answer for it.
But it should be no different than a swale not functioning properly after not being maintained. It's just a larger facility.
Understandable.
One item that really needs to be discussed is the recreational filing fees for those communities that do not have facilities for recreational use, but for those that will be proposed, is there going to be a trigger that exempts them from the requirement of filing these recreation fees at the building permit process? So if they already have a facility in the neighborhood for recreational use, a little pocket park, I believe that they may be exempt from the filing fee for their building permits on each individual lot
I would
because they
like to
don't
look
need to
into that.
participate.
Or is
They don't
there a
need to
separate-
participate in a recreational program.
You're correct,
Just
or is there a
providing it
separate
on
type
their
of
own.
fee that we would be able to charge for we would put the onus of putting the park in on the developer,
Correct, right.
but yet the maintenance of it,
But-
that might be an HOA type of situation, I don't know.
But as the code reads, for these building permits that are issued in these developments,
The rec fees.
they will pay a recreational fee to participate in a recreational program to create park space and parklands
Yes.
and places for the public to enjoy themselves.
Yes. So it might be where we need an additional verbiage, and that's what I'd like to seek.
Yeah, that'll, like you said, really need to be looked at, because again, that's going to offer them something to do in the neighborhood there, but it's not going to offer them the soccer fields, the baseball fields, the rest of the, things that cost a great deal of money to maintain, so, yeah. We'll look at it.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think that's an
Good
important,
point.
that's an important part.
Yep.
An important point to mention out loud for anybody who's listening is that we're looking to solve problems inside or add more recreational space inside these neighborhoods, but not the large
Right, not a big complex where there would be a football game every, this is where the kids grab their bat and ball. Like I was spoiled. I grew up on Linden Avenue, and I had access to Como Park and the lake there, and then the flats. And we'd grab our ball and our mitt, and we'd go down to the flats and play ball. We throw down some frisbees for bases. I mean, this is just some green space that kids can go and run and play and throw a ball at each other and enjoy the neighborhood.
That's the big difference between a public park area and these private recreational spaces.
Absolutely.
And if we could come up with some verbiage, you can seek that, help me, give me some direction on how we can follow through with both, that would be great. You go on the next slide.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
That's you.
Thank you.
So we have identified by the Planning Department Subcommittee 3 goals. The first one is to enhance the recreational areas that exist, connect Westwood Park to the Heritage Trail if possible, add a walking trail and fitness park to Meadowlea Park potentially. The second one is acquire new lands for recreational areas and green space. Potential lots have been identified and 4 have been sent notices. And then the third one is update subdivision regulations to include recreational areas and green space. Ideas listed as code changes are needed. New ideas identified and shown of different subdivision that could accomplish living in a subdivision and being provided recreational areas and green space in there as well. So those are the 3 areas that we really have identified, and we were just interested in is there something else that the moratorium committee would like us to be looking into? We're not, we've come up with these ideas, here they are, but is there anything else that we should be working on, or is this good for
I
now?
think a good way to put this, we've been all over the board, honestly.
Yes.
We've been looking at a lot of things, and it seems like we're touching almost every different subcommittee to a certain extent.
Yes.
And so to try to focus our efforts, we thought, well, let's do a recap of where we are, where we think we are right now, and that's what we're looking at here,
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3. And is there, again, as Melissa said, is there somewhere else we should be looking?
I think, my opinion, the follow-up on all this right now is going to be key, and the points, the stuff that Matt's pointing out right now, obviously it needs to be followed up on. So you've identified these areas, we've identified ideas for the different developments, which are all great. Now we got to follow up to see what is actually functional for the bigger parks, but for this type of thing, this is all going to be part of the code enforcement, the zoning changes that are recommended. So I think a natural transition would be, you've come up with this, now we're going to be meeting about zoning, identify, what changes need to be made in the zoning laws, rules, and then we all get together again and decide what we're going to do, if we're going to make those changes. Obviously, that committee, once you complete everything you're doing here, and you're off to a very, very good start and pulled all this stuff together, but again, what do we need to do in the zoning to make this, and the law changes to make this, so we can actually do it. So again, you guys can kind of mesh into that. But again, we still got to follow up on the parks to see what are actually feasible for the future.
And if I can make a recommendation, in the current zoning, there's a section on, and I forget what it's, is it plan unit development, PUDs? Yeah, plan unit development. in the current zoning, that was put in just this last time we did the zoning change. It talks about allowing a developer to create smaller lots, but end up with green space left over for this use. That might be a trade-off that you're willing to look at in a subdivision, say, okay, we'll let you go with a little bit smaller lot if you're gonna end up providing X acres of, a pocket park. So this is a suggestion, look at that section of the current zoning, there might be verbiage in there that you can massage or work with that will get you towards this pretty quickly.
So if you guys want to move on to doing that at this point and following up on the remainder of when we go for the walks and everything else to identify feasible land, I think that'd be great. And then, oops. Then again, it's all going to come together at some point in the next couple of months when we come up with this, great ideas, take a look at it, the code changes, law changes, whatever. But yeah, if you could start taking a look at that pertaining to this specifically, that'd be great. Any other recommendations, Matt, for this particular group?
No, thank you.
Okay, all right, very good. So that's good. Anything else we got to go over at this point? Okay. Did we hear back from Erie County Water Authority yet on, did they do the checking on the?
I've not heard back yet.
Okay.
I can reach out to Len and ask him.
Yeah, if you can follow up on that, that'd be great. Unfortunately, we got several people who aren't here today for different reasons, and hopefully they'll be present at the next meeting. Do you got anything for us today, Diane? I do not. Okay. All right. So again, nice job putting this together, coming up with the ideas, and then we got to incorporate them into the existing laws and zoning, and then, bring this all together for the board in the end there. So.
Anything from fire, please?
Haven't heard a word. There was somebody else was, going to be working on that. So I can always follow up if need be. So.
Anything more with the schools? There were going to be some discussions with the schools.
Haven't had them yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we have not had that meeting yet. So sometime in the next month or so, figure that one out. And get the information we need from them as far as their numbers and that type of thing. And then again, in the past, they haven't been, willing to let us take any of that nice school property, but we'll see what we can do in the future. Okay. Anything else? All right. Thank you very much. We will send out a notification for the next meeting and go from there. Yeah, these zoning maps, again, check them out, see what you want changed. Take a look at that part of the zoning that deals with this and say, okay, well, we want to change this, this, and this.